Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time and for making it to the February edition of AFRAA SkyConnect. As always, today we've lined up very exciting. So sit back and enjoy the sessions as it unfolds. My guest today is no stranger to most of you, as for those of you who have been in this industry for a while, might him one way or the other, as he's worked across the aviation industry, both in and abroad. He is Mr. George Uriesi, and he is the Chief Operating Officer of Ibom Air. Without speaking for George, I would want to invite him to really give us a brief about himself and about Ibom Air, and then we delve into the details. But before George comes in, ladies and gentlemen, remember our rules haven't changed. If you are not speaking, please remain muted. If you want to ask a question, put it through the Q&A tab. If it's a comment, pass it through the chat box. And at some point before we end the show, I would get in there and review them and get George to respond to your questions, time permitting. Ladies and gentlemen, please, this is an interactive session, and I would want you to ask as many questions or make as much comment as you can, so that we can all derive maximum benefits from this from today's function. So with that, George, welcome to the show. And
Thank you.
If you can give us a brief background about yourself and about your airline. Thanks.
Thank you, Ralph. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
And hello to everybody. My name is George Uriesi. As Ralph says, I am the Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of Ibom Air. I have about now 33 years experience, with about 30 years of that in aviation, cutting across airlines, airports, and cutting across the economic and safety regulatory environments of the industry. So I have a little bit of experience, and I hope that helps me in my job. Ibom Air is probably the first subnational owned airline in Africa. It's owned by a state government of Nigeria, but their role is they're trying to execute a vision. And one element of that vision is access to the state, and therefore they have borrowed the success model of other airlines and invested in an airline as a shareholder, but in an airline that runs as a private entity. They're just the shareholder, and they've invested in an airline like Emirates, like Ethiopian, to help build the economy of the subnational and the country. So we're almost 5 years old now. We will be 5 years old in June. And we have had a great run in spite of a lot of obstacles. And we are geared to continue to grow with a fleet of new Airbus A220s to allow us to cut across the continent and Nigeria also. And yes, the company has grown. It's got all the infrastructure and people it needs to become a very successful airline. And we're working very hard on that track. Thanks, Ralph. Do I need to say more?
No, that's fine. For now, I just was reading your website, and it says Ibom Air is committed to safety, service excellence, hospitality, and innovation.
Absolutely.
Very exciting to know that as a sub-state airline, privately driven, has got ideals going forward into delivering service to its customers. Are you living up to these ideals so far?
Oh, yes, absolutely, we have. That is why we've become quite a favorite airline in Nigeria. We have the first thing the state has done, it has copied the people it has copied from. It has left the airline to run professionally. We have picked a team of fantastic professionals across the board, both from within aviation and outside, from companies like IBM, like Chevron Mobile, like Microsoft. The management team is made of people from real top-notch corporates. And then, of course, the sharpest people we can find in aviation, in the flight ops and maintenance and airline services areas. And so we have a solid team. The team has been together from the beginning and has continued to be together until today. So there's been no changes in the leadership of the company. And we have seen the results of our efforts so far. So we are pretty confident that the future is bright and that you will continue to see our logo flying in the African skies.
Great, and we look forward to supporting Ibom Air in whatever way there is that this industry needs, and we need shining examples like that from humble beginnings. And we know that Ibom Air would grow to become one of the biggest, not only in Nigeria, but across Africa and the world. Now, let's just delve a bit more into the airline dynamics in the Nigerian market, starting first with the operators, because it seems to be domestically, it seems a crowded market with, I don't know how many operators there are now, but the focus seems to be more the domestic markets. What is the operating landscape like?
Well, currently there are 9 active scheduled domestic carriers, and all of them are flying. In many instances, we're flying the same routes. And then, of course, we spread out. The country has about 24 active airports across the country. It's a very fiercely competitive environment, obviously, because even though there's a large domestic market, you have to really fight for every passenger you carry. And obviously, if you're not carrying sufficient passengers, you don't make enough money to stay alive. So the domestic market is probably the fiercest competitive market in the continent. Because what you find in most other countries is you find a dominant carrier, which is more or less the national carrier, and then a couple of peripheral operators who do well, okay. But South Africa might be a little bit different, but definitely not as competitive as the Nigerian market, where there are 9 carriers. The trunk route Lagos to Abuja is, everyone operates it, and we fight for those passengers. Last year, I don't have the 2023 numbers yet, but in 2022, we had almost come back to 2019 numbers. And I'm very sure that in 23, we'll probably beat the 2019 numbers nationally. The domestic market is something like 12 to 14 million large, depends on what the numbers for 23 say. I think it will be about between 13 and 14 million. That would have been shared by 8.5 carriers, because one of the carriers started halfway through last year. What is interesting is that they have survived. They have survived over the last few years. They survived COVID. They survived all the other issues that have been taking place. No Nigerian domestic airline in the last 4 years has quit. They're all operating. So there's something that's going on. It means that whatever passenger numbers we're having, we are surviving and we are thriving. But it looks like one carrier currently is doing scheduled flights outside Nigeria and across the world. That is Air Peace. They fly to South Africa. They fly to India. They fly to China. They fly to Saudi Arabia. and around West Africa also. So that currently is about the only Nigerian airline doing that much of a footprint in the world. We, Ibom Air, started our foray into the regional markets in October last year when we started to go to Accra. And our intention is to cover the whole of Africa over the next couple of years. So I don't know the ambitions of the other domestic carriers. I have heard one or two suggest that they will soon start to fly outside the country too. But most of us are focused in the country at the moment, and it's a very fiercely competitive environment. But it's got a good market, 14 million. Yeah.
No, I wanted to ask whether it's is it fair for someone to conclude that probably there's enough money to make in the domestic market, and so there's no appetite going further beyond the borders of Nigeria?
I don't know about fairness, but I can say something about this. There have been a number of Nigerian carriers over the last few years that have started domestically and very quickly went out of the country as far as Europe. And we've seen many failures. So there's a lot of examples of startups just gaining some traction and then going out to compete in a world where the competition out there is brutal and unforgiving, and they've fallen victim. So I think there might be a measure of learning from that. For Ibom Air, I can say we were very clear about how we're going to approach this. We would start, we would gain footing, we would stabilize, and then we would take bite-sized chunks. We have no desire to go and play in Europe or North America. We're not even going there. We want to sit down in a place where we can compete. And then when we are sound some years down the line and we're a successful airline in every measure, we can consider doing something outside the continent. But for now, we started with Accra. We're getting a foothold, and then we'll start with the second one and the third one and all that.
Would you say that the Nigerian domestic passenger is actually a beneficiary of the Fier competition you alluded to earlier? There are fares relatively cheap and affordable so that the average Nigerian can afford to take a trip at least once a year?
If you ask this question in any country in the world, they would say no. It's flying. Everybody says that flying is always expensive, but it has to be comparative. It is cheaper in Nigeria than in most places if you want to convert it to an international currency like the dollar for a flight. But obviously in Nigeria, we sell it in the local currency, which is Naira. And the domestic market has remained within the confines of 10 to 14 million passengers for a few years. If pricing went down, it's probably going to increase. But pricing has sort of remained around the same, even though it adjusts for inflation. And the carriers become more. At one time, there were 4 or 5. Now we're 9. And I think when I see 2023 numbers will be about 14, that's my estimation, million domestic passengers. I think there's a market. Now we have to see how the market plays out. Are there going to be more joiners? Are there going to be any leavers? Are we going to remain 9, or are we going to become 6? Or are we going to become 15? I don't know. But for Ibom Air, our philosophy is that there's sufficient market for everybody to come into and thrive. What we have to do is to try to meet our business plan targets in terms of load factors, frequencies, flights, and all the things you need to do to stay alive. But everyone else is doing theirs, and we have survived so far, and we're thankful.
So now, whilst there's fierce competition on the domestic market among Nigerian operators, or at the intercontinental level, there seems also to be some fierce competition, but this time around the active players are non-Nigerian. Do you think there would come a time where this would be wrestled, this battle for intercontinental, the Nigerian carriers will actually grow into asking for their fair share or demanding their fair share of this market?
I actually like that thing of fair share because
fair share.
We in Nigeria have probably the biggest market for all the regional carriers to tap into. We have a high growth market, a high leverage market where demand is always high, it's not seasonal. And so many carriers, both from outside Africa and within Africa, have benefited immensely over the years from the Nigerian traffic. A lot of them have developed strategies around the Nigerian passengers' travel requirements. So you see Nigerians are taken to wherever they want to go via many of the African carriers' homes, while Nigeria hasn't had the opportunity to put forward a sustainable, competitive carrier to take advantage of this market and the markets around the continent. Currently, there's a very commendable effort by Air Peace. They are flying to a few African countries and beyond. And all of us are watching that, and they're showing us that this can be done. We have no doubts in our minds that we're going to play in this market. We're going to develop in a very careful manner to the point where we are in a strong position as a regional airline. Our mindset is not to come out and compete with the Ethiopians and the Kenyans and the Egypts and the SAAs and all of those people. Our mindset is to come in and work with them and assist them and be partners with them so that Africans get a better connectivity, better choices, and are able to travel easier than today. So that's what we're coming to do. We're coming to be partners with everybody else.
That's very interesting. I mean, and that is something that has been lacking in Africa and among African carriers. The desire or the appetite to work with each other, to collaborate and cooperate. We always see ourselves as competitors, and we're competing even where there's no need to actually compete, where competition is actually hurting or killing us, but we keep competing until one succeeds in killing the other, and then now I say, hooray, I take over the market. But collaboration definitely should be the way that African airlines can grow the pie and be able to mobilize traffic into specific hubs and be able to compete effectively with non-African carriers. Because these other carriers are coming from huge hubs from their background. And until and unless we do this, it's going to be a very difficult one. So I actually commend the vision of Ibom Air to look out towards collaboration rather than head-on competition. It doesn't work. And I think reading around before this event, I saw that Ibom Air actually signed the first domestic code share in Nigeria with Dana Air. I don't know whether you signed or you are yet to sign, but I read something like that somewhere, which is very impressive. Because I always say that you go to Nigeria and then you fly in between cities. As you said earlier, many of the airlines are competing on the same routes, but if there's an AOG on the flight you are supposed to take, then you are stuck unless you go and buy a new ticket. No other person will take your ticket. So I found this signing of this co-chair with Dana as an excellent example of where we actually should be headed. And I want to commend Ibom Air for that. We look forward to more. And you have actually alluded to the need for collaboration rather than competition. Now, this is impressive. And I look forward to you guys driving this forward and leading, size notwithstanding, leading the market by your deeds. and then the others will see where the fruits are coming from, and definitely will come in to do same and partner with you. But having said that, in terms of cost, how are you guys dealing with issues of cost? Because that's one of the biggest challenges on the African continent. Cost of operations of airlines. How is the situation like in it?
The cost of operations of airlines, my goodness, is skewed against us in Africa in very many ways. First of all, I don't know about our colleagues across the continent, but I know about Nigeria, and I suspect that many of them go through the same issues. We don't get the same deals for the aircraft in the first place. Maybe we don't have leverage because we're not ordering as many as other people or operating as many as other people. We don't get the same insurance terms, especially insurance terms. I'm aware that we probably insure one of our aircraft for the same amount of money a European airline would insure 3 or 4 of its aircraft. So already we're at a disadvantage. You're coming into a boxing ring with one of your hands tied behind your back. You're operating the same equipment, but just the cost of acquiring it and operating it from insurance perspective is already very, very high compared to the European or any other carrier from anywhere else. And then come to the home environment where you're operating. Everything is dollar-based, as you know. The maintenance of an aeroplane is probably only your catering that you pay Naira, your local currency for, and just a couple of other things. Most of the inputs. So what you do is you're trading in a currency. In Nigeria, for instance, we're trading in the Naira, and we're maintaining and running the airline in US dollars. Now, you try to keep a parity, you try to price yourself with using a dollar benchmark as your pricing mechanism. So each passenger, you yield the amount of dollar you need to be able to survive and thrive. But it's not that elastic. The rate of depreciation of, for instance, the Naira in the last 1 year has been so huge that it's difficult for you to price your tickets and continue to meet your dollar benchmark. And so we've tried to find a balance. Maintenance has become, that's why, for instance, Ibom Air, we made a decision. We are going to do our maintenance at home. So we're already almost totally able to maintain our CRJ 900 fleet. We're almost there. Everything we need to do on it, we can do here, except just a couple of things that we have to take the aeroplane out for. And we're going to do the same thing with the Airbus A220. We have the facility. We have one of the largest MRO facilities in the continent. The sort that Ethiopian has, that Egypt has, that South African Airways have. We have the 4th one on the continent that's that large. Our shareholder did a great job to provide that ability for us by investing in such very expensive infrastructure, even before the airline. So now it's being completed, and we're going to move there and do all our maintenance and become a center of excellence for the maintenance of the A220. We're not going to take it out. And so over the next 6 to 8 years, we expect to build the capacity to do the full scope of maintenance on the A220 here. And so we're trying to do things like that, like Ethiopian has done, like Egypt has done. They all do their maintenance in their facilities. It saves them a hell of a lot. And you can't build a successful airline without having a maintenance base to maintain your aeroplanes. The business model in Africa, especially in West Africa, has been to fly aeroplanes here and maintain them abroad. Fly aeroplanes here, you do the business here, you maintain abroad. You do the business, it's impossible to succeed on a long-term basis like that. So we are working at not falling into that trap.
Tell me, will this maintenance facility cater to third-party maintenance as well, or is just in-house maintenance?
Oh yes, it's a very key element.
No,
it's too big for us.
This will be very great service to African operators if we can have that in addition to the existing ones on the continent. at least then it adds more capacity to maintenance. And
That's the whole idea.
It helps leave some resources back on the continent. Now, are you okay as a country and as operators in Nigeria, particularly with skilled labor? Is skilled labor really available? Are they challenges?
Oh yes, it's a huge challenge. And in the airline industry, there are 3 or 4 key airline-related skilled labor areas. The one is the pilots. They don't have borders. So as there's so much expansion going on now with the recovery, you see Saudi with their new airline. They don't even have the airline yet, but they've ordered 300 airplanes. People are going to fly those airplanes. So they will come around and look for pilots. So, you know, there's such an upsurge that you have to fight to keep your pilots. You have to work harder and pay more to get some kind of parity so that they stay with you, and then create conditions that make them want to stay. Same goes for aircraft engineers, aircraft maintenance engineers. They are sought after and very, very, very precious to airlines. And so you have to fight to keep them. And then one area we don't look at very much, but is very important, is management. At the end of the day, the differentiator is the leadership. And so to get very, very astute, capable leaders in your airline and keep them from small to big so that you can grow and develop, you know, a very competent airline. You can't underestimate the need to pick the right people for management. So we deliberately went out to top-notch corporates looking for right people who would bring in all those different experiences to join with the airline experience of some of us to create a company that can run a successful airline. So that's what we did, set up a company that can run a successful airline. And we're trying now to keep these people, keep the pilots, keep the engineers, keep the managers, trying to manage this deadly environment where airlines go easily all the time. We don't want that to happen to us. We want to show that Nigeria, we can build a highly successful world-class airline. There's no reason why not. We have the people. We, Ibom Air, are lucky. Our shareholder has developed a hub terminal for us, developed a fantastic MRO facility. We have no reason to fail, but for us to beat this, we need the best possible people across the board. And yes, we fight. The people are not there. You fight for them. You go everywhere, you look for them, you bring them, you create conditions for them to stay with you and be loyal to you and commit to you for a long term. I don't know about all the other airlines, but honestly, people, training, capacity is a key element.
And how about infrastructure? Because the market is growing, as you said. Now domestic at about 12, 14 million and keep growing. I mean, the population of Nigeria in the excess of 200 million. Now, infrastructure is key to future growth and success of the airline industry there. How is the ground infrastructure to support aviation?
We have some infrastructure challenges, some serious ones. And generally, I have seen in the last few years, many African countries grasp the link between infrastructure for aviation and their economic well-being. So they've invested smartly. I can name many countries, even in West Africa, Togo, Ghana, even Sierra Leone, Senegal, they've all invested in their hub airports to create traction that people can buy into. We haven't been that successful in Nigeria. That I confess. And has that been a slowdown? Of course, it has been a slowdown. We can't develop a hub carrier without a hub airport, without a hub airport infrastructure. So other people can come and take your passengers to their hub to travel. You can't hub out of your facilities because the facilities are not designed to support hub operations. One of the reasons why Nigerian airlines have struggled. So there is definitely a move right now to start to solve the problem. I know it takes years to do. I know that. Luckily for us in Ibom, we have a hub, deliberately designed hub terminal, which we're going to exploit to the fullest, to do, domestic to international, international to domestic, international to international traffic. That will allow us to establish a hub for the first time in Nigeria. A very easy hub in the same building, world-class level, same thing as any airport you go to in the world. We'll complement that with very high, top-notch airline services. And of course, everybody is invited to come and join us because again, our philosophy is there's enough for everybody. Everybody can thrive as long as we just manage our own business plan and make sure we meet the requirements of our business plan. Nigeria is changing, and the infrastructure has to change with Nigeria. It has to. And I think that message has sunk in now more than ever before. And I think currently there's an effort to start to bridge the gaps, to have basic fundamentals like airport master plans. Before you do anything, you have to have a master plan. We didn't have those before. We were arbitrary. Let's do this here, let's do that. You don't develop airports like that. And then everything leads up from there. We have tried to do exactly the opposite and set a template in Uyo. We have a master plan. We're developing according to a master plan. We are doing everything from the airline, the MRO, the airport bases, trying to create an ecosystem that's world-class, that can serve Nigerians very well, and also serve as an example to the rest of us that this can be done in Nigeria. Yeah.
No, my next point was going to be on airline collaboration, but let me just take this question, which is actually aligned to that somewhat. And this is a question from our common friend, Aaron Monetti. He says he's listening keenly to you and he's enjoying the session. And he wants you to give us the reasons why African aviation seems to be held back by the implied lack of enabling environment and supporting collaboration among the African airlines. What are some of those reasons?
That's a PhD question from Aaron. There are many factors. There are very many factors, and AFRAA is a key to the door to help us overcome some of these issues. So we should become more invested in AFRAA, because that's why we've joined AFRAA so quickly, and that's why we want to become a very active member of AFRAA. There are many stumbling blocks and many blockages, many obstacles. One of them is our mindset. We want to compete, as you said, to kill the next person. If I can do this and get this guy out of the way, then I take everything. If you proceed from that point of view, it's very difficult to reach collaborative agreements. We're always one up on each other. We need to start seeing the way the rest of the world has seen that you can collaborate, and collaboration always becomes better for you and better for everybody. It's not, it doesn't kill you to collaborate with the next person. Our governments across the continent have to release airports. They have to release airports to private participation, to private management and leadership. Airports need to have plans for growth, like what the Rwandans are doing now. They've set up an airline. Airline is becoming successful. They have now gone and done a greenfield airport. They've even had a partner from what's it called now, who's joining them in investing in this greenfield airport, super hub airport, to support the airline. They are doing what Ethiopia did. Kenya has done to an extent the same thing. Those governments in the rest of the continent need to start seeing that. Otherwise, you'll be left behind, especially Nigeria, because we have the biggest market. Everybody else is, as we say in Nigeria, chopping the market. They're enjoying the market. We, unfortunately, haven't had a competitive carrier to hold our own in that market, our own market. So now we're trying to build that block by block. We're following the example of Airpeace. It's gone out. So it shows that, yes, you can actually go out. So maybe in a different way, but we're also going out, following behind them. And hopefully Nigeria will have one or two internationally competitive airlines, while we will be trying to collaborate as much as possible and reduce competition. We want to be competitive and world-class anyway. And that's the way to solve this problem. Have a mindset to collaborate. It's much better. I can't say it any better.
No, that's a great way to do it. You need to have the right mindset, and we need to work together. We have no option. And it has been proven over and over again that in the business of aviation, working alone is not good enough. Working with others is the way to go at all times. So now for Ibom Air, what lies ahead? What should we be looking up to? Now in 5 years, the next 5 years, what should we see differently?
Well, the strategy is beginning to it has yielded results and is beginning to show what's possible. We move into our hub terminal in a few months' time, and we start the process of creating the network that will build the hub. We are at the moment now receiving our order of A220s. We ordered for 10. They're going to be delivered during this period as we spread our wings. The airplanes come with the benefit of so much more efficiency. The capability to do 1 hour sectors and 7 hour sectors. The airplane is very versatile. It's a key element of our strategy going forward. We don't bring in too much capacity onto the routes, so we're really not going to be fighting around with the people flying heavies around. We'll be carving out a niche for ourselves. The next 5 years for Ibom will be consolidation. We'll be moving from making the transition from a startup airline into a stable airline into a successful airline. For us internally, it will be building the next generation of leaders for the company, because we're very clear in our minds that we're building a company to last. We're building an airline that will be successful. So we're now focusing on the next level of leadership that will take it from us, and establishing a pipeline that is continuing to be strong, kind of like Ethiopia. I've had such a long succession of inbred CEOs, people that come from inside the company. I mean, the last maybe 7, 8, or even 10 CEOs are all different people from inside the company. We need a company like that has that depth, that has that ability to bring people to take over leadership after the next and after the next. So a leadership, for instance, in the near future of Ibom Air will decide, okay, it's time for us to go to Europe. But we're strong and competitive, so we can go there. Leadership after that might decide, well, why not North America? They could decide to go there. But we have to have world-class leadership built along with the growth of the company, so that it will become a company where people can have a career retire, have a very nice life, be very happy about what they've done, and even have their children come into the airline also, like most airlines in the world have done. Every day we see pilots, even in Africa, in Kenya Airways, in Ethiopian, where the captain is retiring and his daughter or his son, is on the last flight with him, and they're taking over from there. It's the kind of thing we want to see. Create employment, create stable economic input and impetus, not just to Akwa Ibom, but to the rest of Nigeria and Africa. We've tried very hard to achieve this, and we're doing everything we can to follow through and make sure that the success we achieve is similar to the success we dream.
So now there's another question, this time by Victoria Moore. And Victoria, it looks like you touched on aspects of the question quite extensively, but let me just pick it, and if there are any elements you want to add. That I'll be interested in hearing about Ibom Air's long-term fleet development plan, aircraft types and numbers. And also George's plan to develop Ibom's MRO activities. Are you planning any new competencies or new MRO infrastructure?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you very much. With respect to the fleet, our approach to our fleet is that we want a very simple, uncomplicated fleet. Kind of like Southwest Airlines that do 737s. Because of all the benefits of a single fleet to an airline, it's efficient. So we've gone to the A220. We believe that we're going to grow beyond the 10 order and we strongly believe we're going to make another order before these 10 are delivered. At this stage, we're already thinking about that. And then we want to keep it just an airline of Airbus A220s and CRJs initially. Eventually, we'll phase out the CRJs, no doubt, because the versatility of the A220, especially the 100, at some point we will get some 100s. They will replace on the lower traction routes, so we pick up the passengers efficiently with the A220. And if you ask me, I see us not go into wide bodies for a while. We might, because of capacity limitations on the A220, we might at some point consider a larger single aisle aircraft. We might, but we will not go into wide bodies for a long time. This company will definitely be super stable and successful for a few years before we will venture into wide body territory. With respect to the MRO, yes, we are working in collaboration with Airbus Consulting. They have helped us to put together the business plan for the MRO. It requires another level of investing, so we're busy with the financing for that investment to turn it into a third-party maintenance area center of excellence, not just for the A220 and the CRJ-900, which are our aeroplanes, but for a couple other aircraft types that we will be providing third-party maintenance for. And we also, yes, it is going to require a lot of upskilling. It's going to require us to collaborate with an established MRO in the world that is EASA and FAA certified, so that we can maintain anybody's airplanes. And the investment is quite huge for this next phase, but we're going to do that soon. We're busy with the financing for that now. We're very, very certain that we'll have a beautiful aviation ecosystem right here in Uyo base. Okay, good. Victoria, there you got it. You got the plans outlined there.
Now, sorry, there was a request, an inquiry by Chidozie, whether the plan could be recorded. Indeed, AFRAA records all SkyConnect programs, and after the show, the link is normally posted on our social media handles. We would also send the link to our guest to share as deemed fit. So please, if you want to get a direct access to the link, through AFRAA, just send a message to AFRAA and they will get the link, so that probably by now you have missed some if you have not started recording already. So you can get a full video from AFRAA later on. Thank you so much. So now let's switch gears a little bit and touch on the single African air transport market. Now, this is a program that is counted as a great initiative that can actually unlock the traffic, both cargo and passenger potential of the African continent, but also viewed in other circles as an impediment to the success of some airlines that are beginning to enjoy success. What are your thoughts about single African air transport market?
Okay. Well, we all agree with the underlying reasons for SATM. Absolutely, we need to be able to fly around freely. Any African airline should be able to fly to any African airport and just, operate freely. But there's a little bit of a divide in the sense that the African countries are very quick to sign up to SATM. Many have done. But signing up to SATM is the one thing. Opening up to the expectations behind SATM has been the other thing. So you find that when it comes to renegotiating the access rights, there's an obstacle there because the elements of SATM are not really being observed at that level. And one thing, Africa, you guys must give to Nigeria is Nigeria in spirit, in the letter and spirit of SATM, has really opened up our markets to African carriers. Any African carrier can fly anywhere in Nigeria, and they are doing, and they're enjoying the benefits of SATM in the real sense of the word in Nigeria. But it turns out that, if you listen to Airpeace, for instance, tell you about the difficulties they have accessing, certain countries in the continent, in spite of their airlines' access to Nigeria, and it tells you that, I wish we could take this thing up one more notch. So as we start our foray now, we have just begun to discuss with some of the African countries. I must say, we were very happy with Ghana. We were not given any stress at all. Everything went very smoothly, and we started to operate into Ghana. We hope that we will see that spirit as we go everywhere else. Because if you start to get to points where your access is being denied or restricted, then you come back to your government and say to your government, then why are you giving those guys access? And then the whole SATM thing starts to unravel. So again, collaboration, we need to work together. And we, Ibom Air, are very committed to SATM. We're building a fantastic terminal, let them come. We're very happy, but let us go too in the spirit of SATM. Don't stop us.
Oh, that's interesting, and that is actually what we want to happen on the continent. Let's open up and don't let us just sign documents and continue to protect the market. That is in nobody's interest.
Yeah.
Once we all agree that we commit to SATM, let us just do the needful and open up our markets and allow airlines to fly around freely. Complement that by actually also making visa acquisition easier, particularly for travel within the continent.
Absolutely.
So business can actually be facilitated. It's so frustrating traveling through Africa and hanging around in airports for no reason, because they cannot just have the traffic rights to fly between countries directly.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with the Nigerian stance. The market is very open. and they allowing airlines to fly even to multiple destinations in the country. As a leader on the continent, we want Nigeria to do even more, but also hold others to account, hold other African countries to account. They must also open up equally. And I think it gets nice. What Nigeria should avoid doing, in my view, is to get to a point and say, no, let's also retaliate. Let's don't give more traffic rights. Let's hold back. No, you give back, but you insist that others also give your country traffic rights. It's just fair, you know. So now, as we conclude, Ibom Air is an IATA member, and you joined AFRAA also. Now, I'm sure you have you now know what AFRAA does and what support you can get from AFRAA. But as operators in Nigeria, what is it that AFRAA can do to support the coalition of airlines in Nigeria, in your view?
Well, first of all, I must say that in the few months that we've been members of AFRAA, almost 1 year now, we're very pleased. The secretariat is very responsive. You send an email, boom, they're back. We're constantly communicating, and I believe that's how they communicate with all the members. So I've built a lot of confidence in the people in the AFRAA secretariat, and that's a good thing. We like that because we see it as a platform for us to join the community and to be active in the discourse of the community. Domestically in Nigeria, we identify with AFRAA. We would like to encourage every domestic airline in Nigeria to join the AFRAA body, because it's a major tool for us to leverage a little bit of Nigeria's example with respect to SATM. Many of us have ambitions to fly at least regionally. Being part of SATM helps send similar messages to all the countries to continue to pressure them to release access rights in the spirit of SATM, like Nigeria. Just what you said, that you don't want Nigeria to get to a point where we start to withdraw rights in reciprocity to the people who are not exactly giving our carriers rights. We wouldn't want that to happen. But we would all have to work in tandem and work together. So AFRAA, to me, to Ibom Air, is a leverage, it's a huge leverage tool, and it helps the business in many, many ways. So I look forward to long years of participation and collaboration with AFRAA and our fellow African airlines. Let us come to our own in this world and start being able to, if not compete out there fiercely, like the Ethiopians are doing very well, I'm very proud of. Let's jointly manage our African traffic and compete with all the international competitors. The other day I saw a map, you won't believe it. The growth of Turkish between 2014 and now in Africa, the growth of Emirates, the growth of all those carriers in Africa between 2013 and 2023. And of course, Ethiopian grew too, but it was the only one that really, really grew like that in the continent. The rest of them have grown, and I don't want to say it's at the expense of African carriers, because they didn't push anybody out to do that. They were given the rights. But we can consolidate and start to grow to the point where, you know, we are favored by our own African traffic. They can enjoy it, but we should enjoy it more. And AFRAA is a big tool for that.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we conclude, our time is up. Let me just take a few comments that we have here. There's Stanley says that I love Ibom Air services. They are highly professional, from check-in counter to the cabin crew services. Well done. This is a thumbs up. Then Rom Legal says, I fully support collaboration in the quest for bolstering African aviation. fostering agreements like co-sharing, interline alliance membership, joint venture, maintenance partnership, capacity sharing, loyalty programs, alliances, regional career partnership, revenue sharing, and technology sharing is imperative. These agreements enhance connectivity, optimizes resources, and drive competitiveness. Yet, the journey to a thriving African aviation sector necessitates further collaboration and the establishment of more agreements to unlock the commitment and commit the full potential. So I mean, very much agreeing with what you are saying, that there's wide scope of collaboration that we need to explore as African carriers, and that is the only way that we can actually move on to progress. I think I have another one more question, then I take your final thoughts. And this again, I think our friend is on your case today. Aaron Monetsi again. Aaron is saying, well done to Nigeria for making visa access much easier. Are there any countries in Africa where Ibom Air is reluctant to operate to due to visa restrictions for fellow Africans?
Okay, we haven't encountered that yet. Okay. Luckily, Nigerians can fly to Ghana and back without visas. So our first foray has been successful in that sense. We will soon encounter a country where there's visa requirements, and we will try to work. So we're not yet discouraged by anyone until we find reason to be discouraged. But we don't believe that there will be, because the good thing is we collaborate, our Civil Aviation Authority collaborates with us, our Ministry of Aviation collaborates with us as we go to negotiate for rights. And based on that, there's always this mutual love for each other, brotherly love. They accept us. We have not encountered. Ghana was successful. We're thankful for that. We are waiting for how things work out in the next destination, which I don't want to mention right now, but which will unfold in the near future. So far, so good.
Okay, great. Now, final question, and this from Pierre Louis. And Pierre is saying, how important is technology to Ibom Air? Are you able to source any IT systems from Nigeria or Africa? Can you envisage tech solutions coming from outside Africa, but integrated and operated from Nigeria?
Oh, yes. The industry right now is technology driven. If you don't embrace technology, you're out. I can guarantee you that. There's no question about it. We're trying to be cutting edge. So we have relied on already established players who provide the kind of ICT infrastructure that airlines need to thrive. It's expensive, but you have to invest in it because you need it to thrive in the business. Very soon, I have no doubt in my mind that there will be African-bred ICT systems. And when that time comes, and when those things are available, we will not hesitate to invest in them. But currently, you have to invest in what is there at the moment in the world. All of the African carriers use international ICT systems. We too are part of it. It's a little bit more expensive for us right now as a small airline, but we have no choice to invest upfront because we know where we're going. And everything we do is ICT driven, absolutely.
Fantastic. So now, before I let you go, your final words, do you have any key message for our audience who have glued with us for the last 1 hour?
I guess two messages. The first one is that the African passenger and the African watcher of the industry need to know that African airlines operate under much harsher circumstances than the rest of the world, and that we strive to provide the services is a measure of serious resilience, because a lot of things are so discouraging. Sometimes you just want to drop everything and just say, I give up, I can't anymore. But we can't do that, so we continue. So I have nothing but admiration for all the African carriers that have been successful, for the Ethiopians, for the Egyptians, for the Kenyans, everybody, and in Nigeria too, for all my fellow carriers, APs, ARIC, aero contractors. These guys have done fantastic jobs to continue to operate under very hard circumstances. So I want people to know that. And secondly, the second message is collaboration. We need to work together. Let's not plan to kill each other. Let's not plan to remove the carpet from underneath each other. Let's allow us to breathe, allow ourselves to breathe. Everybody, there's room in the industry. You can thrive. Let's not be enemies, let's be brothers. The rest of the world has done it. Yes, there's still fierce competition, but it's brotherly competition. Let's be like that. Let's be like that.
Wow. Let's be brothers and operate as brothers. Yeah. Business in brotherliness. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Mr. George Uriesi from Ibom Air today, done a fantastic job by sharing with us a lot about what's happening in the Nigerian operating environment and in Ibom Air specifically, as well as on the African continent. I hope you have enjoyed the show as I have done. I would want, on behalf of all of you and on behalf of AFRAA, to thank George for making it to this show today and for sharing so much knowledge with us all. And to all of you guests who have participated, our biggest appreciation to you as always. We look forward to seeing you at our next show next month on the 6th of March. Particularly those who have made comments and those who have asked questions, we are most grateful for your comments. If we have not been able to respond to your question or comments, please pardon us, it's due to time, but we do look forward to being in touch with you and to respond to further questions in the subsequent sessions. Thank you very much, George. And thank you very much, everybody. Have a fantastic day ahead and the rest of the week. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.